Welcome to Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Vance Lowe and Seth Hicks, your secret weapon to protect your assets and never have to start over financially again. Vance and Seth help high net worth individuals, families, business owners, and investors structure an asset-protected, tax-free fortress for their families. Learn how to keep what you earn and use the velocity of money to create your own private banking system. Join us on this journey as we explore the secret strategies of the rich and political elite and help you take total control of your financial security. Now, on to the show.
Well, hello and welcome to Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Vance Lowe and Seth Hicks. Vance, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic today.
Awesome. Well, we've got a great topic that is incredibly relevant to people's financial stability and security. And we're going to be talking about the national debt and all-time highs that we've hit, but more importantly, how we're going to beat inflation and taxes with private banking strategies. Sound like a good topic?
It really does, and it's going to affect everybody. So let's just get down into it.
So, Vance, I was on a call with a client and we were discussing inflation. And I took a look at the national debt calculator, which everybody can find on their own, usdebtclock.org. But what I realized was that over $2 trillion in national debt had piled on in just this year alone. And it topped over $36 trillion. It boggled my mind, frankly. And when we started tracking this 6-7 years ago, we were in the low 20s. The national debt is just multiplying and snowballing faster than can be controlled. And it's estimated that it would take nearly $8 trillion in budget cuts just for the debt to stop growing faster than the economy. So the national debt's growing much faster than the GDP and the economy. And that's unsustainable, obviously. So we may have some good things happening with Trump in office in this next 4-year term, but with regards to the snowballing national debt, it's going to take some massive, massive efforts to cut that back. Now, one of the things that I realized, Vance, is that the national debt load is considered to be the biggest risk to financial stability and security of Americans in our country. Can you believe that?
I believe it is. I mean, it's been something that we've been concerned about all the time. We've got to get people in government that care. Right now, for at least the past decade or so, with the exception for 4 years that Trump was in before, our government has raped our country up to this point, and they don't care. And the reason I say that is that politically, now that things are going to change over and Trump's going to get back in, he won by an absolute landslide. I don't think we've got to go clear back to Reagan or maybe even before then to understand the popularity of the voice of the people for Trump. They're tired of what's going on and what's happening and all the things that are going on in government and totally unchecked and out of control. And to top all that off, the billions and billions of dollars that have been pilfered, like the Ukraine situation and Hunter Biden. I just got news that they're going to pardon Hunter Biden.
Wow.
Of all crimes. And the kicker was that he had to do it. I guess a president gets to do one person, so he chooses his son. And I guess the biggest reason is that Trump is replacing the FBI head directors, and they don't want a whole bunch of stuff to come out on Hunter and what they used him for. So they're giving him a complete presidential pardon of all past crimes. Wow. So we got a lot that we got to do here with our budget. You know, it's so hard to wrap your head around how much $1 trillion really is.
Right. The Wall Street Journal reported that it's going to be decades and decades and decades of American children and grandchildren paying for it. And they noted that this is a financial experiment in printing money that's never been in history before. And you and I both know that the laws of economics are going to play out. And this is one of the key concepts of the infinite banking concept. It's the Austrian economics theory versus the Keynesian economics theory, with the Austrian economics obviously advocating for minimal government intrusion and believes that markets self-regulate and that, the printing of money is harmful and will create parabolic inflation. And that's exactly what it's done. Whereas Keynesian economics, feel like, oh, we can print our way into prosperity. So just keep printing money. And, this inflation levels are tolerable for economic growth. And I don't think there's anything further from the truth.
Yeah, history has proven out that that's totally false. I mean, history, if a civilization ignores its history, it's bound to repeat it. And Germany's a good example of World War II and many other countries where you could take a full wheelbarrow of common currency and it was worthless. You couldn't even buy a loaf of bread with it. So it gets way, way, way out of whack. What we could do, if government was willing, which they're not, is we could switch to Austrian economics, right now. And we could bring back a gold standard. And we could set an amount and live on that. And then the repercussions would happen. Yes, we still have to pay the bill because it's not that Americans have consumed this debt and American entitlements have grown to this point. It's not that at all. It's all about what's going on behind the scenes and behind government and what they're doing, the money that they've printed and the money they've taken out of the United States. Everybody thinks now all of a sudden everything that they said was conspiracy is now proving out to be absolute fact. That's why they're digging into redoing the food and drug situation, is trying to get that straightened out. Maybe they can do the same thing with money. I don't know. They have to do something because we can't be adding to the deficit like we are. The reason it's going up, Seth, is because we can't produce enough to pay the interest. So the interest alone outstrips what we can actually produce in America now. And so we've got to do something very fast because there's no way. When a country turns south, they try to shore it up a little bit, make it happen this way or that way. They're trying to do that with Social Security. We have more people on Social Security today than are out producing, the taxes to pay that. And right. Instead of investing it like they promised, government illegally spent that money. Well, I guess I can't say illegally because they, I'm sure, passed a resolution privately against the citizens where they could spend the money, and it's a perfect example of a Ponzi scheme where the new money comes in, pay for the people who are using it. They never thought that more people would be using it than, it's producing.
It's kind of important with regards to retirement strategies and retirement planning to analyze this printing of money and the effect it's making on tax-deferred government-sponsored accounts like 401ks and IRAs. I mean, there's an interesting organization called the Society of Actuaries, and they pointed out that, if all things are equal, you'll come out to the same whether you defer your taxes until you take retirement distributions or you pay your taxes up front and then take tax-free withdrawals with regards to the 401ks and IRAs. But if the tax rates are going up over the long term, which seems inevitable given this parabolic increasing national debt, people are going to end up paying far more in taxes later than they will now. And so we tell people all the time, you are better off actually just pulling your money, your cash out of the retirement plans and putting them into something that has a tax-free economy. So what are your thoughts on that, Vance?
It really is incredible. If the government wants to produce more money and to get ahead like they used to be, we used to run at a surplus. Back before the Federal Reserve was born, we had an absolute surplus. We didn't have any income tax, and life was really, really well. We could still be that way. One of the things that would increase the gross product for America is to lower and or get rid of federal income tax. and limit a lot of state tax, because over the years we've seen the greed everywhere for taxes. All we have to do is raise tax just a little bit more and we can do this, a little bit more and we can do that. And all along and all the way through this, they keep raising salaries and bonuses and all the things they do. Even in this next turnover, you're going to see Congress meet and vote themselves another raise. They do that every 4 years. And if they were honest and addressing the situation, they should meet and lower all government benefits to elected officials in half, at least in half, and limit their budgets in half. They're the ones that should lead the way because they're supposed to represent the people in order to affect this thing at all. I've got a little chart that I used to show clients when we were teaching them about money. It's the tax effect on $1 million. If I took $100,000 and was allowed it to grow over time, how long would it take to get to $1 million? And then you can figure that out. And then when you add taxes, it takes a lot more. So if you use 10% of taxes, you see government's share over that period of time at X amount. Well, if you go from 10% to 15%, everybody thinks that government would make more money. They don't. They make less because they pull more out every year, which leaves less in there to grow. And we charge tax on that. So when you get up into 30%, I don't understand that. I've never understood that with government. When you get up into the 30 to 40% tax brackets with penalties and all, the government's just cutting their own throat, and they don't even understand or realize it because it affects everybody because they can't produce. There's nothing in there. And so the volume of money goes down to almost unworkable. It costs more, to try to administer the IRS than the IRS is bringing in income taxes.
Right. And that's why we advocate for letting your money compound and grow in a contract that is completely outside the IRS's taxation by their own rules. And that's why the ultra wealthy and politicians have used the infinite banking concept and private banking strategies because they're on the know. And it's one of the things that catches people off guard when they think this retirement fund that they've got in their 401k or their IRA is all theirs, and they fail to realize that every penny they put in and every penny that it's grown and deferred is going to be taxed. So they're at best, they'll get 2/3 of it, and at worst, they're going to get less if the taxes keep going up. So it's a huge deal when they realize they've only got 2/3 of what they thought they had, and they don't have enough money to make it through the sunset years.
And Seth, that's so true. They hear it, but they don't believe it. I think in school now or any higher education, we're kind of brainwashed into government will take care of us, giving more and more authority to government when what actually made our country extremely strong and powerful is that our government had an absolute limited role in the lives of people. No taxes. Their job was to defend the nation. We exported to every country, and we got all kinds of profits, tariffs, taxes, things like that. When countries wanted to come in, we charged those taxes and tariffs, and a government run at a surplus. And you know what? We didn't have banks back then. We didn't have banks like on every corner. I think Jefferson had to deal with the first commercial bank back in the early 1900s. He told us if commercial banking caught on in the United States, it would be the demise of our country because they do use Keynesian and they grow the money. They go as if there's an unlimited supply and they lend out money that they don't have. Before that, or during that time, when banks started coming into the territories, if a bank lent more money than it had on deposit, the town people run them out of town. They tarred and feathered them over and over and over again. They just would not allow it. Then the Federal Reserve, like I said, was born, and they passed these illegal laws allowing that practice to be legal. So today, banks lend money out of thin air. It's called factoring. You can listen to that on other podcasts that we've done. And when they factor, it is an instant indicator of inflation. So Seth, today, before the Federal Reserve, pre-Federal Reserve, like right at 1900 to 1910, a gold piece represented $1. You could get $1 gold piece, which was an ounce. Today, $1's not even worth a fraction. I guess it might be what we call bips or basis points in the world when you're down to 1 cent and below, and you're still trying to make a cut. We call them bit points. About 4 bit points is what $1's worth today. So 4% of 1 cent, and that is what the banks have done to us.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel like you are generating a lot of revenue but are not moving forward as fast as you would like? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
And so, Seth, like you're saying, and we can move forward here, folks, you can go back to this old strategy. We can set our own system up. We can be independent. We pretty much escape the tax issues because everything inside our strategic plan does not create any taxable events. We can get growth. We don't have to risk it in the market, putting money in someone else's hands. And again, letting government and other people take the lion's share. There's a lot of things we could do. And this is why you and I are on here. For those people who are tired and not getting ahead like they should, we've got a message for everybody. We don't have to participate in this.
Right. And that is the key takeaway here, is that whole life insurance properly structured with our private banking strategies, concepts, help protect you from this inflationary runaway train and from the taxes and the higher taxes that are certain to come, and help you to protect your wealth and protect what you've made in that system. So let's talk about some of the key features that and principles and 6 ways that private banking strategies help you avoid this runaway inflation and higher taxes.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should. I think that some of the things we've got to understand is that we can make a difference. We can take control of things. People, when you hear participating mutual whole life insurance, what do you think? Most people are going to be very, very negative. That trend started a long time ago, about 40 years ago, when A.L. Williams was created and came out with a whole revolution of ideas of buy term and invest the difference, and you'll blow whole life insurance away. That never did prove to be the case, but it was the fad of the day, and the herd mentality bought that, and they bought into that, and so people don't understand that these whole life insurance contracts, structured correctly, like you said, form the bank, form the necessary vehicle for you to get your money back, for you to move money and get more velocity. So it's not so much what we don't know is hurting us, it's what we think we know that's incorrect, as famously put by Nelson Nash of the infinite banking concept.
Yeah, one of the key components of a private banking strategies system is that you can access both your principal and the gains that are compounding and growing each year tax-free. And the income that you may take, or the dividends that are paid and taken out, they're not reported to the IRS by the insurance companies. It's a financially private system, and it's a tax-free economy. And that's pursuant to Internal Revenue Code 7702. So they carved out their own little exclusion in the tax world with these contracts. And you've got the likes of John F. Kennedy and the Rockefellers and many, many high-profile families and ultra-wealthy individuals, J.C. Penney, Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's, and the list goes on and on and on, who've implemented these contracts for the same type of benefits that we're talking about. So you can access your money tax-free. You can pull it out tax-free. You put it in. There's no reporting. And there's really no better compounding annual growth in a tax-free system out there.
There's not. And as a matter of fact, I think we've got a podcast in our library that we discuss the perfect investment. What would be in a perfect investment? And everything that has come up to date, these accounts, these type of contracts have in them. Guaranteed growth, stay pace with inflation. Outlandish things, of course, are not, that's not anywhere. But these things are vehicles. They were built by the people, by the citizens, the everyday person who has to go out and meet all the world affairs. It was created by them, for them, and they are the owners. These contracts have been in existence since our country has been around, and many of them sprang from right when our country started to fill this banking need, to fill the need of the individual and the passing of assets to the next generation.
Well, here's another kind of interesting fact is that income that you take from conventional retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, they sometimes can increase your Medicare premiums and as much as 200, 300, 400%, which is kind of a curveball if you're dependent upon that Medicare. And that's something that other people don't really realize as well. But the income that you take from your own private bank doesn't cause you to have any higher premiums with Medicare. It doesn't change any of your rights, and it's very distinct and different. What do you know and think about that, Vance?
Well, what people need to understand is money and the gains derived from the policy are not considered income at all. And yes, there is the way you could be taxed if you wanted to. But like you said a little bit ago, these things are not tracked. Nobody but you and the life insurance company knows how much is in these accounts. These have been time tested. They're proven. They've always been around. Government officials use these same strategies. The bank ownership used these contracts for their safe money. This is not in question. These contracts, if they were like a Dave Ramsey or the A.L. Williams group who really tried to tear this thing down, they've stood the test of time. If they ripped people off, if they were too high cost, if they didn't perform to the advantage of the individual, they would have been long gone, Seth, but they're not. So when you hear that term, whole life insurance, and you have a bad feeling, it's what you think you know that is incorrect that's going on. You need to find out correctly why these things still exist, what the advantages are, and why these other groups have always been trying to tear them down, and they're backed by banks. Banks don't want us doing what we used to do. That program of education eradication started in the early 1900s. Branch banking started about 1950s. It went into full swing, and it finished around in the 1970s. But then people started discovering, just like we are talking about here, hey, I could take my pension, I could take, my retirement stuff that are government orchestrated, and I could put that into one of these whole life contracts, and I could live off of the interest, and it's more than I could receive net from my pension for the rest of my life, and I would still have access to the total account should I need to borrow and put it back or whatever else. And so they introduced what's called the modified endowment, and that's another topic, to discourage people from discovering what they worked so hard to get out of the United States.
One of the things that sets these contracts apart is that they have a high cash value, meaning the premium that you pay, you can pull out a large portion of that cash value and put it right back to work again almost instantly. You've got dividend paying mutual whole life companies, which year after year without fail through the Civil War and the Great Depression have paid dividends, and there's been parabolic compounding increase in growth for over 200 years with the companies that we use, and that also increases the underlying death benefit that you pass on to your loved ones and your beneficiaries, and that creates a wealth that sometimes people couldn't even earn in their own occupations and professions. And so that legacy benefit, all tax-free, is a huge value that out inflation and taxes and other strategies.
It's sad to see in the United States today Back in the day when I was quite young and growing up, it was all about the family and leaving as much as possible to the family. Today, it's, am I going to outlive my assets? That's the worry today, because we're not producing enough to set aside. Taxes are going up. Earnings, it seems, are not staying pace with inflation, and inflation can destroy everything. And government knows that, and that's been a problem for us to have to deal with. But here's how we can do it. These 6 steps right here is just giving us the hope that we need.
Right. And I mean, that's the tension, is the government intervention and control and over government of the people effectively and not for the people, versus being able to take the banking equation back into your life and being able to implement your own control in your finances. You do that through the private banking strategies. It's night and day. So I know this is really just kind of a broad stroke on these issues, Vance, and we've got so many other attributes and values of the private banking strategies that help people outpace inflation and avoid the taxation issues. But I think it's probably a good time to stop here and just let people know where they can learn more and how to get in touch with us. So folks, if you want to learn more, hit our website at privatebankingstrategies.com. That's privatebankingstrategies.com, and there you'll have an offer for a free book. You can read that or you can listen to it on the go. You put your email and let us know you're interested in our content, and we'll send you valuable content, including our weekly podcast, the most recent updated podcast. We've got almost 100 on our website. You can find all those for free under the resources tab. There's blog articles, and then there's also content that we send in the form of emails that addresses the 7 pillars of private banking strategies. And if those things resonate with you, if our book resonates with you, if these podcasts resonate with you, we want you to schedule an exploratory call. There'll be a link in those emails that we send you to schedule an exploratory call with Vance, where you start to actually apply your financial circumstances and situations into how private banking strategies would work for you. And then ultimately, it leads to what we call an 8-year analysis, where we show you exactly how to implement this month over month in an 8-year strategy. And that's our process, folks. So we're glad you joined us, Vance. Any closing remarks?
No, there really is a light at the end of the tunnel here, folks. There is good news out there. You can do it. You can set it up. You can run this system. It's so easy. But we do have to learn something new, and we have to let go of the way we were using money in the past. So that's the good news out there, folks. Hope you have a good day, and some of this will resonate and that you'll take a little action.
Yeah, come back and join us again. We'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you, folks.
Bye-bye.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
Thank you for listening to the Private Banking Strategies Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.